You have 5 people in one party, then suddenly you have 1 people in 5 parties. Wait, you've got 1 person in 1 party, but you've got 5 parties of 1 person each. So then you end up with 25 people? Anyway, it's a split. However it works, it's a split. How do you deal with a split party? Well, this is my return to this subject. Wiser, smarter, and I'm still split. Hello and welcome to this week's show. My name is Guy and we're exploring a topic I've not looked at since 2016. How to work with a split party. It's a challenge to be sure, but one that you should be hoping for, as a matter of fact. Now, I mean, I in my old video, I made a lot of sense, if I do say so myself. So why am I doing this again? Why not just, go and watch the old video? Well, because after 4 years of additional gaming weekly and talking to you wonderful folk, I have revised some of my ideas, and of course technology has changed too. I raise my hand. I have evolved. When Dungeons and Randomness came to me and said, hey, we've got a new world setting for the world that we've been playing in for 8 years plus, can you promote it? I went, well, sure, send me a copy of the book and let's have a look. They did. It's behind me. I think, yes, there it is. It's behind me, and what a book it is. 400 pages of amazing world setting goodness, a giant map included. Find out how you can get your hands on a copy at the end of today's video. So keep the following in mind. The party is going to split, and you will have to face this at some time in your GMing career. Now, you could tell the party never to split up. You could, and I have heard some people saying that, you guys, you can't just split up. That's unfair. That's railroading. They should be able to if they want to. Telling them that you will have to handle a split party and that you will do so to the best of your ability and that they must be patient. Now that is fair, and you are one, and they are many. So they must do that. So I remind them of that. Now, I also like to remind myself that when a party splits up, It does make the game, it makes the game more dramatic. It really does. If you know how to use tension and relaxation as a narrative tool, and you should, having watched this channel for so long, it can be a lot of fun. It speeds up your game. Now, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but a split party is a party doing many things at once, but in smaller committees. What do I mean by committees? Well, committees move faster than big ones. And so what I mean by that is that when a party breaks down into debate on what to do next, when there are 5 people in that party, there's 5 opinions that need to be debated out, and it usually takes longer. However, if you have lots of little smaller groups, those committees are only 2 people, and so decisions are made quicker. So generally, it speeds your game up. Now, it also gives you, as the game master, the chance to engineer moments of glory as one group saves another group from disaster. And that is where the trick comes in terms of a split party. You will need to orchestrate events very carefully, making sure that progress on all sides is equal-ish, kind of equal. Now, I do not mean that you need to railroad. Never. I never advocate railroading. What I do mean, however, is that you need to gauge how long each party will take. How long is party A going to take versus party B? You can use all of your tricks, all of the powers to increase their pace or to slow it down. Throw in some NPC dialogue to slow down party A, or remove some NPCs or some combats from party B so they catch up to roughly the same space that party A is in. Now, if you can juggle this, and if you can keep both parties, or 4 or 5 parties, how many of the splits, if you can keep them running at roughly the same time, you are going to be in a golden spot. And now, what I also like to do, a nice way of keeping track of who's doing what, is that I kind of have in my head like an initiative. And it's like, okay, group 1, group 2, group 3, and then you go back, group 1, group 2, group 3, group 1, group 2, group 3. It gives the players a sense of timing as well, so that they know when they need to act. And so they can plot and think about what they should be doing. They never do, but they can, whilst the others are taking their turns. It is critical that you control your table, folks. Now, I learned this lesson last year in 2019. You must tell your players that when it is not their turn, they are to be quiet. Or at least they should talk about the group stuff, not about memes or joking or all that kind of stuff. Think about it. A split group, generally, they need about 5 minutes per group. So if you've got 4 groups, that's like a 15-minute round trip before it comes back to the original group. Players do get bored, but they mustn't distract each other. They mustn't distract each other. Now, whilst we're also engineering all of these different splits, something else to keep or to try and keep is your dice rolling at the same time. So if Group A enters into combat, Group B should enter into combat or into a skill challenge or something that requires them to roll dice, and so should Group C. Why? Because what it means you can do now is you get everybody to roll initiative, and then you bounce in between each player for a single roll. You roll your attack, you hit, you do your damage, the orc screams in bloody pain, it rises intent on taking your head. However, Group C, your PC, you roll a dexterity check to pass. You balance on the wall of the orc camp, witnessing the carnage happening down below you. Make your check, you don't slip, but you do notice a goblin is taking aim at you with his bow. Group B, the chamberlain looks at you very coldly. Make a deception check to lie to get part, Anyway, so what it does is it not only makes the PCs feel as if they're all kind of involved in the adventure, but it also makes them feel like they all need to succeed in order for everybody else to succeed. I mean, it's a great technique to bring the party together. Another trick you can use is that Cliffhanger Technique. Now, this is sometimes very difficult, so don't stress if you don't get it right every single time. Try to end each group's moment on something suspenseful before moving to the next group. So that the PCs have this, and then you move away. Now, it's not always possible. It really isn't always possible, so don't force it. Don't try and make it happen. If it's not going to happen, just move on. Something to be aware of with split parties is metagaming. Metagaming is a big challenge. Now, because everyone is hearing across the table, across Zoom, however you're communicating with them these days, they might start to change their plans. Group A might start to change their plans based on what is happening to Group B, I beg your pardon. So Group A is kind of sneaking, Group B won't hear them. If there is no logical reason why Group A should suddenly be allowed to respond to something that Group B is doing, I would say to them, okay, listen, you have no grounds for changing your actions. This is metagame what you're doing. However, think of a reason why you might change, and if your reason is sound, then you can change your path. So it's a little bit of GM control that we will need to do because it's important, okay? Now, this is where it starts to get sticky as well as a split party. How much idiot do you let into your game? Now, in my old video, I assumed that there was a lot of idiot. Now, 4 years later, I know there is a lot of idiot. And by that I mean some players and GMs are super focused on the harsh reality and the simulationist outcomes that the game offers. Okay, there are others, like myself, who don't really care and are more interested in the drama and the emergent story. So you need to decide which kind of GM you are, and then then your outcome for idiot will be different. So the party splits up, right? And they can go wherever they want to do. One group decides that they're going to do something stupid. They have found the lair to the dragon's cave, and they're going to go in alone. They're not going to call the other groups. This is stupid. Now, you can give them clues that it's a bad idea. It's like there's bodies of champions all over the place. They're dead, desiccated. There's a giant warning sign which says, I wish we had been more. It's been nailed to the face of a dead man. I mean, you can give them as much clues as they like, but the party, if they're stupid, if they're idiots, they're going to push on because there's that whole immortality complex that a lot of players have. Their PCs can't die because they're the main lead. If you're a simulationist, they will face the monster and then they will probably die. Because you plan for the monster to be defeated by the entire party, not by a fraction of the party. If you're a storyteller like me, then your best option is to have the beast that they're going to go and fight. Maybe it's gone out shopping, or maybe it's gone, to go and get loo paper. I don't want to sacrifice the entire group's effort at telling a good story, having a good game, because some players got excited and forgot to think. They did the idiot thing. Choose your path wisely. Okay, now there is another split party consideration. Time and space. Now, this is one of the ones that I changed my mind quite significantly from the last video that I was dealing with. Now, I still am a firm believer in filmic time. Now, filmic time is a term that comes from Hollywood, from script writing, which accounts for characters being able to cover great distances in different times. Group A is at the bottom of the tower having a conversation with NPCs. Group B is engaged in a massive battle at the top of the tower. Should Group A only be allowed to speak in sentences of 6 seconds because of Group B in the battle up, which is in 6 seconds, right? No, I don't think so. I think the battle should be raging and the PCs should be free to talk as much as they need to. So I'm going to be bouncing between those two groups, not really caring about the time that's actually transiding there. Now, if the Group A people who are talking hear the battle and they race up the stairs, let's say it's a short tower, but it's still like, let's say it's a mile high, right? So it's not a short tower, it's a mile high. Could you say it's going to take 18 seconds or 3 rounds for them to arrive? Theoretically, it should take them like 24 hours to climb a mile high tower or whatever. I mean, that's the point I'm making. In Hollywood, the group would allow to get from the ground all the way to the top in the nick of time. That's what they use. The nick had just arrived at the last moment. Whereas if you're a simulation, it's like, well, it's going to take you 24 hours to get there, so you will arrive once they're dead and buried. Now, there are some things that don't make sense. For example, if the PCs are on the other side of town from one another, and the town is 3 miles wide, then it's impossible for them to be able to converge on the same space in a few seconds. You could attempt to insert some nebulous time event into the combat to slow it down. So, for example, fight. Oh, the roof has collapsed and you've separated. It takes you a few rounds to get back together to continue your fight. What you're doing is you're buying time for the other group to run across the city. That's important. So you can make that, it's wobbly time, right? So you kind of adjusting generally. But make sure that you don't do ridiculous things like allowing one starship to travel the same distance in a blink of an eye as opposed to the one which took weeks to get there. Okay, so I will generally try and get my split parties back together after about an hour of real time. I don't want to railroad it, but, if a PC is exploring an old library, the librarian might say, right, we're closing, go outside. And there was another PC who was searching the streets. They happened to arrive at the same library door at the same time. So that's that filmic timing, once again coming into play. A little bit of fudging of what the actual times and things were like, but that brings that group back together again. And they might split apart straight away, but if they have come together and they've had a conversation and they split apart, that's fine. But if they're spending multiple sessions split apart from each other and they're not coming back together again, you are within your rights to say, hey, I'm not running 5 solo games here. I'm not running 5 one-on-one games together. I'm running a group game. Figure out how to get yourselves back together and then act like a team. You are within your rights to do that. You absolutely are. You could dead end their searches to try and force them to come back together. You could use NPCs, locked doors, all that kind of stuff. But after a while, there is that contract that we have to acknowledge and say, well, listen, hey, this is a cooperative game. We should be working together. Don't be a slave to your own planning either. So you're responsible for the pace. You are responsible for keeping that game going. So you have to answer that. So you might have planned out some cool stuff. Sacrifice it to get the party back together again. All right, now, with the advent of online play this year, 2020, I do need to touch on some of the features that you have access to with regards to that. Now, if the PCs are going to talk to one another when it's not their turn, that's fine because they can do that in chat, but then they must do it in private chat because, again, we don't want to cross-talk. We don't want to interfere with other groups that are doing their thing. So I think that's very important. I would make sure that it is, if you're in Group A and you're in Group B and we're talking about Group C, Group A and B, you cannot talk to each other. You can't talk to each other. You're not next to each other, so you can't block with each other. You can talk to people within your same groups, but not across. So set up those rules beforehand, and it will allow them to chat. It will allow them to engage and talk, but that's okay because that's probably what they were doing in real life anyway. Now, If they're in combat, you can't let them run the combat on their own in the chat. Don't do that, obviously. Again, you want to coordinate those combats so you can bounce between and be a hero, that sort of thing. I also want to reinforce that you as the GM should not be talking to one group of players whilst texting the other group of players. Don't kill yourself like that. You really don't need to. So that's my updated idea on split the party. Hit the like button or that share button. Sharing is caring, as they say, and there's no way to split this channel unless you share it. So go ahead and do that. Did I miss anything out on split parties? You tell me. Dungeons and Randomness has been going on for quite some time. Quite a lot of time, a very long time, as a matter of fact, and for good reason. They've got multiple parties running around the world of Theria and going on amazing adventures. Now, they start a new cycle, as they call it, in early November. So if you haven't yet heard them, go and check them out. That Dungeons and Randomness, link down below, of course. But we're talking about their book Theria, which is their world setting book. Now, a lot of people go, "Oh, I really like world setting books, so you give me inspiration." Well, this book gives you inspiration, but it gives you the whole world as well. Firstly, there's a massive map that comes out, and you can go, there. I want to go there. No, take me there. And when you look at there, that is the High Mantle Forest, and it's in the book. You just, obviously it's in the book. It would be disappointing. But what I mean to say is it's in the book in detail. Every area has got little maps of the cities. It's got the food that's eaten there, which includes, by the way, actual recipes for making it in real life. So if you are a culinary DM, you can actually make the food of the areas that your PCs are likely to go exploring in. It's got beautiful artwork in it, absolutely stunning artwork, so that you really get a sense of the space. Then, not only that, it's got its own custom-built class, which is interesting, I have to say. It's got all kinds of magical items. It's got random tables. It's complete. It's absolutely complete. And then, I beg your pardon, and then it's got over 250 NPCs just running around doing their thing. Just with obviously the information, but backstories and motivations, and just I cannot say enough. If you are looking for a world-setting book, I honestly don't see why you would look any further than this book. Now, you can get it from their website. They're out of Kickstarter. They were hugely funded on Kickstarter. They're out. You can get them. It really is just an amazing world-setting book. I can't say any more on that. Anyway, until next time, I wish you and yours the very... Stop hitting them, as the book is so big and so heavy, my weak wrists just can't keep it up. So I keep hitting the microphone. Sorry about that. But that's what happens when you get a nice, big, heavy, hardcover book. Anyway, until next time, I wish you and yours the very happiest of gaming.